Let's talk about the man who had it all. He was the wealthiest and the wisest man in the world. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He had it all, everything that everybody is searching for. He had, the most wealth. He had if it's intelligence, right? The things that people put themselves on the pursuit of, right? Money, power, fame, women, riches, knowledge. He had it all. And he said it was vanity. Who are we talking about? We are talking about Solomon in the Bible. And the reason is because he said that all of these things, after acquiring the things that the entire world is so obsessed with, he says it all meant nothing. After finally having it all meant nothing. Why is this important and why are we talking about this? Because I truly believe that one of the biggest delulus, the delusions, the deceptions of the kingdom of darkness is convincing us as humans that, pursue this thing that you're never going to have to the degree that you're envisioning for the rest of your life, and let that be the distraction of the meaningful things in life. So that you spend your whole life, your whole entire life on this pursuit to this thing, right? Because that's what people do. If you're a lot of rich people, they be millionaires, billionaires. It's not enough. A lot of people, scientists, I've said this to you guys before, having studied science myself, the deep, never-ending pursuit of knowledge, right? That never leads to anything because you as a human are not capable of actually understanding everything anyway, or coming to know everything, because it's not mathematically possible. There are not enough hours in the day, and we don't live for long enough. And we don't even know enough to be able to know everything. Even science is behind. And so let's utilize this. Let's take all of this and let's hear what the man himself had to say in the Book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, which is where we are going today. And we're reading from Ecclesiastes 1, because I've been saying this. Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes. He also wrote Proverbs, which happens to be the book before Ecclesiastes, which happens to be a book we also did on this channel, Proverbs, in January 2023. Go and check that playlist out. Let's read. Holy Spirit, please be with us. Now listen to this. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. So we're saying the son of David, this is Solomon. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Right, let's see what the little definition here for vanity is. The Hebrew term hebel, translated vanity or vain, refers concretely to a mist, a vapor, or a mere breath. Which I like this because when we think about time is finite. And if we're saying that there's an existence of infinite time or eternal life, that means that whatever we're doing in our slice of time that we're in, regardless of what we've done, it's all a vapor in comparison relative to infinity. No, that's why infinity is a number that cannot really be quantified, and we just call it infinity because it's like it just goes on and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. So if you compare your little life, your little, let's say 75, 80 years on this planet to eternity, or even let's just say you don't believe in eternity, to the full existence of anything. Even if you look at how long the universe has existed according to science, this is tens of millions of years. So still, your life is still a vapor. Let's see what he has to say about this. Verse 3, what does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Basically, similar to what I just said. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes round to the north. Round and round goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness, and man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. I think that's a really interesting thing to say. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear satisfied with hearing. Well, what does that actually mean? It is exactly what I was saying at the start of this video, that there is this like insatiable desire amongst us as humans that we can direct in whatever path we choose. Knowledge, money, women, men, power, fame, or as I like to call the temptation trio, money, power, and fame. Yeah, those things, they don't last. Okay, they don't last, and they are not filling. They do not. One will not be left filled by these things. That's why no matter how much we see things, we hear things, whatever, it's just never enough. This is what we're talking about. Verse 9. I'm reading the ESV, by the way. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. I like this because, it's a phrase that people say there's nothing new under the sun. It comes from the Bible. Shock. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Where we're talking about how nothing that's happening isn't anything new. Like, our experience as humans isn't nothing new. The Decepticons of today, it's the same Decepticon strategy of before. And it's the same Decepticon strategy of tomorrow. And that's exactly why I'm making this video, because I'm just trying to throw out there the idea that maybe, just maybe, the things that we are looking for as humans sometimes are not the things that we should be. Maybe there's a reason why God gives us a whole book that we're reading today, telling us of how even in times that we cannot quantify, people argue about when this Bible story happened, that Bible. And yet these people live the same lives as us. There is nothing new under the sun. And we can see how that turned out for them. Don't we love the Old Testament? I love the Old Testament. It says, is there anything of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of latter things, yet to be among those who come after. Which to me, and obviously guys, read the Bible for yourself. I'm just sharing my own, my own things that I'm understanding and reading the Bible with the Holy Spirit, you know what I'm saying? The things to come after. He's talking, I believe, about the afterlife. He's talking about what comes after this short little stint of what we're doing. And it's exactly like having a job, guys. It's exactly like having a job. You go to a job, but your job isn't your entire life. Of course, a lot of people it is now because of the society we live in. And a lot of people need their job to be their entire life because the rest of their life is a horror story. Understandable. But at the end of the day, you leave work. At the end of the day, you in that workplace isn't going to be the thing that's the most valuable, which is why a lot of people, what do they say when they get later in life? Oh, I wish I'd spent less time chasing the dreams and spending more time with the people that I care about, right? The things of value. Verse 12. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. He has seen it all. He's seen it all. He's done it all. He's been it all. And he's come to the conclusion that it is like a vapor, like a mere breath. How many breaths have you taken in this video so far? How many breaths have you taken in your life? So envision that all these things are just like a breath. There is meaningless as a breath. And yet this is the things that we're chasing. These are the things that we're dying for. You know what I'm saying? We're throwing ourselves into precarious situations. We're risking it all. We're dedicating the 24 hours, the only 24 hours that the good Lord gives us every day, to this type of stuff. What's that about? What is that about? Verse 15. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. Wow, that's wisdom. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. that was verse 15. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who are over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. Yes, because Solomon, obviously, in all of his indulgent behaviors, because this is what it comes down to, right? Indulgence. Indulgence is tempting in every form of indulgence. That's the truth. That's why money, power, and fame is so attractive, because, hello, those things, when you say money, power, and fame, we're looking at indulgence. We're not, because everybody, well, people don't all have money, but most people have some money. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you're searching for something that you don't have, or some power, or some, maybe not fame, right? But you're wanting it in a large capacity. That's indulgence. I perceived that this also is but a striving after wind. So him in his pursuit of all of these things, wisdom and knowledge, so things that sound good, right? But then also madness and folly, foolishness, right? It's I perceive that this is but a striving after wind, after literally nothing. Because you're not going to have any of this when you die. These are the things that add value when you already have the truly valuable things. When you already have truly valuable things to share those blessings with, then those things are just the icing on the cake, the things that bring maybe a bit more, I don't know, a different level of enjoyment, I guess. But the valuable things, this is why some of the most happiest, content people are the seemingly most normal. Now, I don't like the word normal. Number one, because I don't think normal exists, because everybody's different. God made us all differently, from all different places, nations, backgrounds. We're all different generations. The world is changing. So I just think normal is something we should just throw out of our vocabulary in a lot of senses. But also, I think it's a word that gets kind of like villainized, like people wanting to live a normal life. It's like, how dare you want to be normal? Become a millionaire today. Like these stupid adverts I see on YouTube, and it's like, join my this and this. In 1 week, you can become a millionaire. And I'm just like, really? Really? Like, just for the sake of it? For the sake of what? For the sake of what? For the sake of, if it's, because you see how, anyway, I'll come back to that in a second. It says, this is the final verse. Oh my gosh, and the next chapter literally says the vanity of self-indulgence. Perfect. So we'll come to that next time. Verse 18, for in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. My gosh, is that true? Because you realize that the things that most people are desiring, you realize that those are not the things worth desiring for, and then you realize how stupid the world actually is. That's where I'm sitting looking at all of this, because it's like you said, for much wisdom, in much wisdom is much vexation. I so relate to that, because you realize that the things that you might even the things that you might naturally think. This is why I also fundamentally think this concept of just going with what you feel is problematic, because what you feel is often skewed and contaminated and poisonous. And I'll explain why I say that's skewed, because it's all going to come from your own viewpoint and your perspective. It's going to be based on a lot of circumstances you didn't choose, like how you came into this world, what your background is, etc., and what time in history and all of that. But then also your experiences, your personality. Therefore, I truly believe we're all speaking different languages and we're all living in a different world, as in, not that we're living in a different world, the world is obviously the same, but our perception of the world and how we see it can be different. And so it can be, that skews our perspective, for starters. That's why I kind of think it's a bit foolish. It is foolish to think you know anything, because in reality you know as much as your circumstances and your attitude and your choices have allowed for you to see, and you only see them in the way that you see them based on also those same things anyway. So who are you to be able to make a non-biased conclusion? And that's also why I'm not really a fan of science, by the way, guys, because I feel like with science, studying science for myself, I realize it's very skewed, as in, for scientific research to be done in the first place, it's because somebody decided it was something they were interested in. You don't know what the reasonings for why they were interested in it was, what goals, what assumptions, biases they came into the question, into the hypothesis with in the first place. So that's another reason I don't really trust in science, because it's kind of like, well, maybe if different people were given those same opportunities of research, maybe we would see a lot of things in the world very differently, which we're seeing, because people are noticing that, oh, this thing that was apparently scientifically proven, well, they didn't consider this huge factor in the picture. They didn't consider that huge factor in the picture, if that makes sense. And then it creates these anomalies, and then we have anomaly after anomaly, which leads to a whole bunch of anomalies, which leads to us just making as an assumption based on the most true, the most valid argument, pretty much, considering the one lacking in, the one that with the least anomalies, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like the one that has the least anomalies. And therefore, what are we really trusting in? We're trusting in nothing. Again, we're back to the vapor. We're back to this vapor of nothingness. And so I do think wisdom causes vexation, because you then realize how silly we are as humans, and how stupid we actually are, how foolish we actually are. And it's frustrating, both looking at the world and then looking at our own lives. And I know that people all face this, because it's this classic thing of age. Age is one of those things where you will gain wisdom with age, but growing in age doesn't equate to growing in wisdom. And the reason why you will increase in wisdom with age is because as time goes on, you will just have more experiences, and you will just learn some lessons over time, because time is going forward and things are happening, and you're either having successes or failures, and you're learning from those experiences, and you're gaining wisdom. But wisdom can also be pursued, right? That's why as people get older, they start to say that a lot of things that they realize were dumb and stupid, but they only realize later in life. And that's why I'm a very big believer in the Bible, and a big believer in God and pursuit of wisdom, which I believe true wisdom is to follow God, because I recognize that I am not trying to be on planet Earth and get to the age of 70 and then be having all this wisdom that is virtually useless to me now, because my whole life, I've spent most of my life, I've not got very much of my life left. Gravity is having its way in my body, so is aging, so is the decay of humans, because we're always getting closer to dying than living, no matter what age we are. I'm not cool with that. And then he goes on, as I just said, to say, and he who increases in knowledge increases in sorrow. It's the same thing. Because the more you pursue knowledge, the more you realize the little you know. The more you pursue wisdom, the more you realize how unwise you are. And those things are humbling and necessary. Those things are supposed to turn us to God and to the things that are really, truly valuable in life. Because like I said, a lot of people will be able to say, a lot of people that are alive today who are, hard and fast, living in the fast lane of chasing whatever one of those things that they want to chase. And a day may come. Right now, they're too distracted. Right now, when they're in a great place in life to make different choices, to engage in having the things that are actually meaningful, are putting all of that energy and effort into things that in the future, they're going to look back at it and be like, oh, this was a waste of time. This is what a lot of scientists do as well. Because this is why Pythagoras took his own life. I've said this before. How crazy is it for Pythagoras to take his own life? Why? Because he can't find the square root of 2. What kind of craziness is that? What kind of craziness? He realized that in his understanding and for what makes sense to him, it doesn't make sense that 2 doesn't have a square root. Now, I kind of get that, why that, was distressing for him. But I also can easily see why that was never going to be the case. And I can easily see why it's just another example of the mysteries of God and how we really don't know anything as humans. And there is a lot of peace and contentment that comes with accepting that, because then it drives you to God and not to fill your life with things that are not going to fill it, because he literally lived what everybody wanted. He had what everybody wanted. And this is sometimes why, I look at the world and I think, you can't really be that mad at God, and you also can't really be that prideful in yourself, because some of these things are in front of your face. Like this is what the Bible says. The Bible literally says, this is why we're reading it. It literally tells us that Everything that you said you had, from the words of Solomon himself, I had it. I had it on steroids. I had it on steroids times infinity. And guess what? It was all a mere vapor. It was meaningless. Completely meaningless, and that's what's vexing and saddening about it all. Because when I look at the world of today, I just sometimes think, you know what, we're talking about a lot of stuff and putting a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of emotion, a lot of resources like money and other things into stuff that at the end of the day does not matter. And so social media is not helping that at all, because now social media has made everything seem more attainable. It's made like these unimportant things a lot more attainable, or seemingly attainable, I should say. Both. It's both at the same time. It is more attainable because you just do have more access to more things now. But then also seemingly because, well, it's not like the world is getting better. And I've been wondering recently, like, how were things before the times of social media? Like, what was the world like? Isn't it sad to somebody like me that I will never know what the world was like before social media, because I was born into social media? I had a Facebook account. I was on MSN and all these things at like 10 years old. I don't know a world where social media doesn't exist. How stupid is that? Right? These platforms where so many people now, the world that they even think exists and the things that they think they want are on show to them constantly all the time. But then when you see famous people, because everything that Solomon is saying is everything that people who get to where they want to get to, like the goals that they've set for themselves in life, when they get there, this is the realization they have. But obviously, when you haven't had those things, you become blinded by your circumstances, which is what I believe happens with most people. I'm not going to lie, where you think, oh, well, if I had more money than this, and if I had more this than that. Don't get me wrong. The world functions on money. I'm not against money. I hope all of you guys would be rich, because I want you to live as full lives, and I wouldn't want any of you to be worried about to not be able to do the things that you want to do, in the context of having the things that are truly valuable, that make those things actually something. In the first place, you know what I'm saying? And so this whole thing that we do of just like, oh, well, how is so and so gonna know? We just become blinded when you see these people. You see somebody famous, you see somebody in the entertainment industry, or you see somebody that's super rich, or you see your favorite influencer that's got 110 million Instagram followers and 10 million subscribers on YouTube, telling you that I'm having a crisis and I hate my life. And all people can say is, oh, well, I would love to hate my life in a penthouse in the middle of so and so and so as well. And wow, if that, like, this is, people be like in the comments, this is so tone deaf. Like, this is so tone deaf. You should be listening. You should be listening to the warnings that are in front of you, telling you that this is not the stuff. This ain't it. This is not it. When they're telling you that, because you're just going to be next. And by the time you've dedicated your entire life, I can't lie, that's something I really worry about and I really don't want to engage in whatsoever. It's why I've just given up all my will to the Lord, because I'm like, God, you do what you want to do in your timing and what's for the best. Because you said that you're going to give me, the Bible says that Christ came to give us life and life abundantly. Therefore, that abundant life, a life that is abundant, that's for me. Money, power, and fame, these are very vague terms. Some of these things you've also got to think at the cost, and that's actually the point of what I'm saying. At what cost do you have those things? So yes, Solomon has 700 wives, 300 concubines, and I'm thinking about this in a realistic sense, right? There's 365 days in the year, and that's 1,000 women. So how much does he really get to know any of these women? How much do any of these women get to know him to build any type of meaningful relationship that actually adds true value in his life? Chances are that's not going to happen. Or let's look at the other flip side of that, right? All of these women now fighting for your love, because we know that the Lord, he takes our covenant seriously. So when we get married, we saw this in Genesis when, Jacob had Rachel and Leah were fighting over him, right? Because he really wanted Rachel, but then he ended up with Leah first, because Leah's dad was like, work for 8 years and you can have my daughter. He thought he was going to get Rachel. And then he was like, well, Leah's the older one, so you have to marry her. And he was like, if you want Rachel, you need to work another 8 years, works that time. Finally has the woman he wants. Great. But then he married Leah. So God had to intervene. And because he was off enjoying his marital bliss with Rachel, or trying to, and then God was like to Jacob, like, bro, you said you married her. Do not take away from your wife her marital rights, because he was not having sex with Leah. She wanted to have a baby, and then the whole situation went down between the women, where there was a lot of classic the cat fights of last ladies, fighting for the attention of whatever, which is what we're really doing a lot of the time as women on the internet as well. Even though we try to act like we're doing this all for ourselves, which is funny, also, really really funny to me. And God was like, so imagine what God must have been saying to Solomon. He's like, well, you married these 700 women. You better give, all of them have rights now. There are things that come with marriage. You want to enter into my institution called marriage? Well, guess what? You have duties, right? You have a list of things, of expectations that I have outlined to you that are expected. So that's just another thing that people don't always think about. Because I think about that when it comes to the whole wives and all this. How about managing the amount of women? My goodness. I don't know. You'll need to hire somebody who manages like the biggest. I'm thinking of Lurem Taylor, the one who is the, head of, or one of the heads of TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, manages so many different artists, sorry, people in the entertainment industry and athletes. And they have whole teams. They have teams of hundreds of people working to manage these people just for their careers. All right, let's talk about managing money, because if you have all these different houses, right? Imagine, this is what I don't know if people think about this as well when they think about riches. Imagine if you have all these houses all over the world. Imagine the maintenance, right? Because you got to make sure you got electricity in these places, you got water in these places, you've got food, you've got all sorts of stuff, right? You've got to maintain all of this. So it's not that you're just living large. Now you've actually added to your workload again, because you can't just show up to one of your houses and hope everything's working. You better make sure that when you get there, that all your bills have been paid and all this, that, and the other. It's just more things to manage. So to me, I'm kind of like, whether we're looking at it from a biblical sense or whether we're just looking at it from a purely a mathematical, logical sense, it all does just mean nothing, and it is all kind of silly. And the good things in life are the things that we spend time on. It's like cooking, and how a lot of the best meals out there that you can eat from all cultures are the ones that are cooked slowly over a period of time, right? Because it allows for there to build body in the meal and to build flavor and to all of this good stuff that we love in food, right? It's the same with life. The things that are actually valuable are the things you have to spend time really focusing on and putting the effort and energy into. These things, they're just as good as a vapor. You're not going to remember them another time. You know what I'm saying? You remember a good meal that you put a lot of effort into eating a lot more. This is why people enjoy eating food, like some of the holidays we just had, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and all these types of things. You go out of your way to do more. You make a big deal about this occasion. You spend all this time focusing on this one occasion, and it adds value to your life, as opposed to how you might be cooking on a day-to-day between work and this, that, and the other. Because if somebody asks you, what did you eat for lunch on a random Wednesday in October last year, you probably don't know. You probably don't remember what you ate on for lunch. But I bet you can remember what you ate on Christmas Day. I bet you can even maybe remember exactly what you ate on another Christmas Day, maybe even 10 years ago. Do you guys kind of see my point? So I just think this is a very timely time to be reading something like the Book of Ecclesiastes, because it really helps us to think about how just naturally foolish we are as humans in our pursuit of these things. So I'll see you guys whenever we go to Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and talk about the vanity of self-indulgence, because I truly believe self-indulgence, which is very much intertwined with pride, by the way, which I talked about in another video, I hope. I really think that self-indulgence is one of those traps that we get caught up in, where we think that it's a good thing and it feels good at the time and it seems good to the flesh. You know what I'm saying? But in our souls and in our spirits, it's not satisfying. And that's why we have these like insatiable hungers and desires towards things that we then dedicate ourselves to, and it's never enough. And we're always looking for the next high, we're always looking for the next this thing. You make 1 million, or now it's like, I now want to make 10 million, now I want to make 100 million, now I want to make 1 billion. It's never enough. Or I have access to this many, I have this many fans. Okay, now I've got, 10,000 subscribers. I want to hit 100,000 subscribers. I want to hit 1 million subscribers. Oh, I've got this much access to women. I've got this much access to whatever the thing is. Knowledge, right? Oh, I've understood the basics of this. Now I want to go deeper. Now I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper. It's this insatiable hunger. And I believe this insatiable hunger is the God-sized void that exists in us because we were created to live and have God in our lives. And so when we're pursuing things that are ungodly, yes, surprise, surprise, guess what? You're not going to be satisfied, because nothing is going to satisfy the void that God fills, because God is eternal. He and your relationship with him is something that starts now, as far as you see it, right? Obviously, the Bible says that God knew us before we were born and everything, but goes on forever. And everything that comes out from that, it is an eternal thing. It is an eternal thing that is actually satisfying. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you're feeling the vibe and you want to join the tribe. And of course, like the video, because I really do appreciate the likes. In fact, I always check the likes on my videos in the first 24 hours. I always check the likes on my videos. But other than that, guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. Just throwing out some winning strategies for you all. This Bible is the book of winning strategies. I call it the book of so many things because it's the book of everything. And on that note, God bless every single one of you guys watching. I love you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.